handsome, the articulate, Nadim Naaman! Woo-hoo!
Hi everybody, hi Charlie, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks, I'm not bad. Thanks for calling me articulate, I think that's one of my favourite compliments I've ever got.
We like giving people compliments here.
You're very kind.
Thank you. So, are you ready for some funny questions, some interesting questions, and some serious questions?
Yeah, absolutely, it sounds great.
Well, let's get right into it then. You went to quite an exclusive school. Was the arts encouraged, and has it always been your passion?
I think so. I think what happened for me as a kid was that I didn't really have any exposure to theatre and music at my junior school. At my junior school, I was just sort of a very regular 7 to 13-year-old who just tried a bit of everything, liked a bit of sport, liked a bit of some subjects, not all academics, terrible at maths and science, but really enjoyed English and history and geography and things that were about what I perceived to be like the world. And then, I think I was about 14. I auditioned for the school play, which happened to be Jesus Christ Superstar. And I'd never been in a musical, or really, I mean, I'd been in the Nativity when I was 6 and all that sort of stuff, but I'd never really done a proper show. And I was 14 and I auditioned for it and just completely got the bug. And what I realized was that I'd finally found something that I completely was passionate about, but also it was the first time I felt like I was getting respect from my peers at school. Like people used to tease me because I had a weird name they didn't know how to pronounce. I was a really spotty teenager. People used to tease me about that as well. And I just wasn't really like very good at anything. I was just like okay at stuff. But then I found theatre and I found singing. And it was the first time people would like come up to me and be like, "Oh, I saw the play last night. You were really good." And that did something for me. It kind of inspired me to keep going with it. So then that started the journey. And yeah, I had really supportive teachers who wanted me to do well in my academics, but they basically said, you should go for this, you should pursue your dreams, but maybe have a fallback just in case. So they encouraged me to go to university first. And I went and read drama at Warwick University. So I think I was very lucky. I'm completely fortunate that I had people around me who were supportive and encouraged me, because I've got loads of friends who didn't have that. And even in my family, I think no one's done this before. I'm the first person in my entire family to try and have a career in the arts. So it was a big deal for them to kind of understand that it would be very tough and I might need some support along the way. And thankfully they got behind the idea.
And there's no try and be in the arts about it. You're definitely in the arts.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the arts now. But yeah, back then I didn't really know what was going to happen. I loved theatre, I loved music, I joined choirs. I started, when I went to university, I started going to dance classes, which is something I'd never done before. So it just sort of snowballed, it was one thing following another. Yeah.
What was your first big break?
My first big break was while I was in my last term at the Royal Academy of Music. I wrote a letter to David Grindrod, casting director, and I wanted to be seen for the role of Link in Hairspray, which was coming to London for the first time. This was back in like 2005, 2006, something like that. And I wrote him a letter with my first ever headshot and my CV, which of course was like that long because I was still a student. But I said, I really want to be seen for Link. And I think, I would do a good job in the audition and I'd really appreciate the opportunity. Anyway, he was extremely kind and thought outside the box. So he obviously looked at my CV and my headshot and he thought, I'm not sure that he's right for Link, but I do think he might be good for The Sound of Music. So I got called in to audition for The Sound of Music, which was at the London Palladium at the time.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and I got my first West End job, which was first cover Rolf and swing. So I was a swing in the ensemble, and I covered Rolf. And then halfway through that year, I did a year as first cover Rolf, and then halfway through that year, I happened to be on as Rolf a night that Andrew Lloyd Webber and David Grinrod were in the audience. And about a week later, I got offered the part for the cast change. So yeah, I was 22 and I got Rolf in The Sound of Music, and that was my first sort of role in the West End, and I had the time of my life. So that was that story.
That is cool. How amazing was it to be involved in Madagascar 3, and how did this happen?
This is a funny story. So it's actually linked to The Sound of Music.
How?
I had just finished Sound of Music, and one of the musical directors on the show was very good friends with the company who were doing all of the singing and music recording for Madagascar 3. And she happened to say in conversation one day, "Oh, we really need someone who can yodel. Do you know anyone who could yodel?" And the musical director randomly remembered that I was doing it in a rehearsal once just for fun, to take the mickey. And he put me in touch with the company, and I had to record myself yodeling in my kitchen, and sent them the tape, and they were like, "Yeah, that's perfect. Can you come and do it?" So in Madagascar 3, have you seen it?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's my favourite of the Madagascars. It's
very good, and you know that it's when they're training, the circus animals are training in the Alps, and when I recorded it, they were just like, "Yeah, we're going to have there's going to be loads of yodeling, just because we're in the Alps." And so I just had to stand in this vocal booth and yodel. And then they said, and it's a goat. It's a goat that's yodeling. So if you can, add any goat noises, that would be great. But thankfully, they didn't use those ones. They just used the yodels. So that was my first ever film, and it's
that's cool.
I'm in it for about 16 seconds, but it's still cool.
Very cool. Why were you a backing singer on Britain's Got Talent with an amazing voice like yours?
Work experience, I guess. I was at the very start of my career. It was the summer I left drama school, sort of in the 2-month gap between finishing at RAM and starting Sound of Music. And I didn't have anything to do that summer. I went and did the last 5 years in Edinburgh, which was an amazing experience, but that was only 3 weeks. So there was loads of sort of dead time, and I just sort of put myself out there to all my singing teachers and said, if you know anyone who wants any session singing or any backing vocal work, please put me forward. And it was fantastic because I got to go and work on Britain's Got Talent, which was my first time in a live TV studio, so that was cool. And I also got to sing backing vocals for Rod Stewart at Twickenham Stadium and Elton John at Wembley, the Princess Diana concert. So doing all those sorts of jobs, it wasn't about my development as a singer, I suppose. It was just about getting work experience, meeting people, and just taking it all in, I suppose, seeing what it's like backstage on these big events and stuff. And it all helps build confidence in your ability to be a professional, I guess, and do what you're asked to do, and learn the music and rehearse and all that stuff. So yeah, at the start of my career, I would just be like yes to anything. I just want to get as much experience as I can.
Yeah. Do you prefer being on the stage, on TV, or in a movie?
I prefer being on the stage.
Yeah.
It's what I knew first. It's what I fell in love with. But also, I just don't think you can beat the live audience thing.
No, you can't.
And also, the way a story is told on stage, you're telling the whole story in order. You get to say each line once, and you have to work from start to finish. Whereas with screen work, it's very segmented, and you might record scenes not in the correct order, and there's probably more time spent waiting backstage or offset, should I say, for makeup and costume and all this stuff. Whereas there's something so pure about theatre. Like, you get there, you warm up, you get into costume, and then you start and you keep going till you finish. Something about it is an experience that you share with a live audience that I don't think can be matched. I mean, obviously, in film in particular, you can have millions of things that you could never put on a stage, that special effects, and you can sort of push boundaries with storytelling. But sometimes when I go and watch a film like that, I'm sat there thinking, this is really funny, because literally everything I'm seeing on the screen has been added by a computer afterwards, apart from a tiny face there, or those two people there. Everything else isn't real. Where in theatre, everything is real, and you feel it in your bones. I think that's the most special for me.
Because even sometimes in the movies and TV, sometimes even some of the people aren't real.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely computer generated, and as an actor, you'd be stood there in front of a blue or a green screen, talking to nobody, which is of course very hard and very impressive that people are good at that. But film is just about so many other things, whereas theatre is about human beings being excellent, be that on stage, in the wings, in the lighting box, in the orchestra pit, just, the costumes, the wigs. There's something so real about it, and the fact that so many people come together to tell a story, to entertain an audience or move an audience. I think it's really, really special.
Have you ever been the victim of bullies as a child or in the industry?
I wouldn't say that I've been a victim of bullying, but I have definitely been a victim of mocking and ignorance. I think ignorance. Thankfully things are much better now. But when I was your age, like when I was at school, nobody knew how to spell or pronounce my name, and when I'd explained to them that I was Lebanese, they would literally be like, never heard of it. That must be a weird place. Where's Lebanon? And then you would tell them it's from the Middle East, and then they'd start making jokes about my dad, and asking me if I should maybe get an English name instead, so people knew how to pronounce it, and that sort of thing. When you're a young kid, that's the sort of stuff you go home with at the end of the day and think about, and you sort of think, oh, maybe my life would be easier if I didn't have a foreign name, or if I was English, because that's where I was living. So it is, those things stay with you. And then when I got to drama school, in my first week, an acting coach who is retired now, he's not teaching anymore, but a very old school acting coach sat me down and said, so come on, you should probably change your name. I think you'll work more if people think you're English. So that was, I'm telling that story specifically because in the 10 years in between, I hadn't really had any of that. But then when he said that to me, I suddenly felt like that little school kid again, and became really self-conscious about the fact that I'm half Arabic, and just when people hear that, they make assumptions, and they want to know what religion I am, and I might be having a glass of wine or a beer with my friends, and they'll say, "Oh, why are you drinking? You must be Muslim, right?" Because they just assume that everyone from the Middle East is Muslim, forgetting that Christianity comes from the Middle East as well. It's just little things like that have definitely stuck with me my whole life, and have definitely chipped away in little ways. But I have also been fortunate to be surrounded by loads of amazing friends and loads of very kind and generous colleagues who, when they hear stuff like that, kind of don't really agree with it either. So I've never felt like I've been alone with it. And so so I wouldn't say I was bullied, but I definitely was on the receiving end of some some teasing and some mocking. Yeah.
Why do you think that something so many people get such joy from still creates such a negative feeling in people?
I would probably say two things: ignorance and jealousy.
Yeah.
I think those two things, ignorance and jealousy, in my experience, are the reasons that most people have a problem with anything in life. I think that society is still so traditionalist in so many ways. This is all huge in the news at the moment, with coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter and the race debates that are happening at the moment. And there's so much ignorance, and jealousy. Like, that people get angry when they're not the center of attention, or when their cause isn't the center of attention, and people don't like people that have talent and enthusiasm for things that they don't understand. So, and I think, by the way, I also think they're all hypocrites, because these people love watching entertainment, they all like listening to music, they all like going to shows, they all, they all watch films, they do all those things, and yet, because they can't imagine themselves doing it, they then don't want to imagine their children doing it and stuff like that. So I think there's still a very long way to go, but thankfully, with people like you making such a conscious effort to spread the message and seeing the support you get from the business as a whole, hopefully people will start to open their minds a bit and realize that, men have been dancing in tights for years in ballets all over, and those men are some of the strongest, most athletic, most powerful men you would ever meet in your life. So the idea that dancing's for girls, or any of that rubbish that we hear when we're young, and I heard that as well. People were like raising an eyebrow when I couldn't go to football practice because I had choir practice, something like that. That was another reason for boys to have a bit of a laugh and stuff. And I often think, like, well, what are they all doing now? They're all probably working really boring jobs that they don't like, whereas people like us are doing the thing that we love and that we're passionate about. So in the long run, who ends up happier? The people that follow their dreams, or the people that just want to fit in with the rest of society and just have a really average life?
Yeah, because I said this to Mum the other day. Nobody is born with hate, love, or fears. They are all learned. They are all taught.
That is, Charlie, that is spot on.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Favourite city?
Rome.
Night owl or morning person?
Night owl.
Favourite superhero?
Spider-Man.
Favourite superpower?
Flight.
First celebrity crush?
Oh, wow, what a question. Jennifer Aniston.
Haribo or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Socks with or without sandals?
Without.
Yes. Best movie quote?
Best movie quote? Oh my goodness, what a great question. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Favourite book?
The Life of Pi.
Hogwarts house?
Oh, Gryffindor.
Okay.
Where would you put me?
I think I'd put you a Ravenclaw.
I'll take that, that's fine. I'll take Ravenclaw.
Tongue twister?
But yeah, I haven't tried any for a long time. Are you going to test me?
Yeah, I've picked one, and hopefully this one should be able to catch you out.
Okay, I'm sure it will. Let's try it.
Can you can?
Can you can?
A can as a canner.
Can as a canner.
Can a can.
Can a can.
Now your turn.
Can you can? A can as a canner. Can.
Wow! You missed out the A at the very end, but that's it. That was very good.
That is quite hard. Do you know what it is? It's because I had to do it in 3 sections.
That was a pleasure talking to you. A pleasure and an honour. I really loved it.
The pleasure was mine. I'm so chuffed that you asked me to come on. Thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing, and I'm so chuffed for you that this whole project is just still growing and growing, and rightly so. So look after yourself.
Thank you.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye.